Warning, spoiler alert, this video includes film plot and ending. Soon to retire Detective William Somerset is partnered with a young detective, David Mills, who's recently moved to the city with his wife Tracy. In private, Tracy tells Somerset that she is pregnant and she hasn't told her husband Mills yet. She also says that she's unhappy with the city and feels that it is no place to raise a child. Detective Somerset sympathises, having had a similar situation with his ex-girlfriend many years ago, and he advises Tracy to tell Mills only if she plans to keep the child. Somerset and Mills investigate a nasty set of carefully planned murders, inspired by the 7 deadly sins. The first victim they investigate is an obese man who has been forced to eat until his stomach ruptured. This disturbing murder represented gluttony. And next, a defence attorney is killed after a pound of his flesh was taken from him. This kill represents greed. Carefully placed clues at the murder scenes lead them to a suspect's apartment, and this is where they find a third unfortunate victim, a drug dealer. They find this victim strapped to a bed. The man, what's left of him, is just skin and bone. Unexpectedly, he briefly comes alive. This kill represents sloth. It's clear all these disgusting crimes were planned far in advance. The detectives use library records to identify a suspect, and they track him down to his apartment. Outside the suspect's apartment, they see the suspect at a distance along the corridor. The suspect runs off and the young Detective Mills goes after him. During the chase, the suspect intimidates Mills at gunpoint for a moment before escaping. The detectives examine the empty apartment, which contains hundreds of notebooks, revealing the suspect's mind as well as a clue to another murder. The detectives arrive too late to stop a man forced at gunpoint to kill a prostitute in a shocking way. This horrific kill represents lust. Then they attend the scene of a 5th murder, where they find a once beautiful model whose face has been mutilated. Apparently she was given the option to call for help and live disfigured, or commit suicide by taking pills. This nasty kill represents pride. As Somerset and Mills return to their police station, the suspect surprisingly turns himself in. The killer offers to take the detectives to the final 2 victims and confess to the murders, but only under specific terms, or he will plead insanity. The older detective Somerset is wary, but Detective Mills agrees. Here's the original ending. The detectives follow the killer's directions to a remote location. On arrival, in the middle of nowhere, within minutes, a delivery van approaches. Detective Mills holds the murderer at gunpoint whilst Detective Somerset intercepts the driver. The driver says he's been instructed to bring a cardboard box to him. Then the killer begins to taunt Mills by telling him how envious he is of his life with his wife, Tracy. While the killer is winding Mills up, Somerset opens the box. And in a sudden panic, he warns Mills to stay back. The evil killer then says that his sin was envy, and that Tracy died as a result of this. The killer also states that her pretty head is in the box, and that she is pregnant. Despite Somerset's warnings, rage, shock and anger embraces Mills and he shoots the murderer in the head. And when the body collapses dead in the sand, Detective Mills repeatedly fires more bullets into him. This completes the killer's plan. By provoking Mills and killing his wife, the detective's anger represents wrath. The police converge and take the devastated Mills away. Here's my alternative ending. The detectives follow the killer's directions to a remote desert location. On arrival in the middle of nowhere, within minutes a delivery van approaches. The young Detective Mills holds the murderer at gunpoint, while Detective Somerset intercepts the driver. The driver tells him he's been instructed to bring them a cardboard box. The killer begins to taunt Mills by telling him how envious he is of his life with his wife, Tracy. At the same time, Somerset opens the box and gasps in shock at what he sees. With his right hand, he gently closes the open, empty eyes of the severed head. Tears fill his eyes. He starts to sob. In a panic, he warns Mills to stay back. The evil serial killer then says to Mills that his sin was envy, and that Tracy died as a result of this. He also states that her pretty head is in the box, and that she was pregnant. Despite his partner Somerset's warnings, Detective Mills questions the killer and asks him to say what he had just said again. The young detective can't believe what he is hearing. Then rage, shock and anger embraces Mills, and then as he is about to shoot the killer, we hear 2 shots. The older detective suddenly shoots the killer dead, and when the body collapses dead on the floor, Detective Mills takes his turn and repeatedly fires bullets into the dead body. The younger detective is in total shock. He runs off to where the open box is that contains his poor wife's head. The older detective tries to stop him from seeing what's inside, but is too late. Detective Mills screams when he sees his pregnant wife's severed head. He is now a broken man. The love of his life and unborn child has been murdered. He will not be a father or a husband. He has lost his soulmate. The exhausted young man puts his gun into his mouth and cries out as he pulls the trigger. There is a deathly silence. The older detective is on his knees, crying, shaking. No other case in all his years of service has come close to the suffering, pain and evil this investigation has been. He will never work again and never recover after what he had witnessed. After a few quiet moments, the police converge and take the devastated, soon-to-be retired detective away.